Nestled between whispering pines and the undulating valleys of Oregon, the town of Cedar Hollow seemed like a page torn from a storybook. In 1883, it boasted a simplicity that was inviting, with its picket fences and children's laughter escaping the local primary school like sunlight piercing through a foggy morning. To the untrained eye, it was a community painted in warm hues, yet the chill of darker realities lurked beneath its surface. At the center of this town stood the Delaney House, a sprawling Victorian structure that towered like a specter over the other buildings. Its presence was both commanding and ominous, with slate-gray shingles and ivy climbing skyward, entangling itself around turrets that pierced the sky. The house represented prosperity, a symbol of the Delaney family, a prosperous merchant clan who had carved their fortune through lumber trade. Elias Delaney, the family patriarch, was a man known for his booming laughter and captivated crowds at town gatherings. His wife, Beatrice, followed closely behind, her grace overshadowed only by her fervent ambitions. The couple had 3 children: Andrew, the eldest, quick-witted and charming, Leela with her golden hair and infectious smile, and the youngest, Thomas, a boy of 10 who often lingered in the shadows. They were the kind of family that drew admiration from neighbors and echoed with the sounds of joyous gatherings and laughter. Yet beneath their veneer of perfection simmered a disquieting undercurrent, one that wasn't easy to decipher in the bright light of day. As evening descended and darkness enveloped Cedar Hollow, strange occurrences began to unfurl within the Delaney house. Whispers pooled in corners, hushed conversations flitted between the townsfolk, and even the sun stayed hidden longer behind the thick gray clouds that shadowed the family estate. The children, once lively and free, began to exhibit peculiarities. Leela could often be seen gazing out from the tall windows of the house, her expression a tempest of wonder and dread. She would lock eyes with curious passers-by, her gaze unwavering as if searching for solace beyond the confines of her home. Neighbors reported their unease in murmurs. "That poor girl, there must be something amiss inside those walls." Doubts began to breed, the shadows casting upon the Delaney family grew longer and the warmth of their facade began to chill. One particular incident awakened the town from their silent acquiescence. On a desolate Sunday evening, a violent storm raged across Cedar Hollow. Thunder cracked, splitting the air like an unwelcome guest. Amidst the cacophony, a thunderous thump resounded from within the Delaney's sprawling estate. Andrew had been spotted running from the house, his face pale and drenched with rain, panic etched in his features. "It's nothing," he shouted, hearing the expectations of concerned onlookers, but the tremor in his voice betrayed him. The storm subsided, leaving a heavy silence hanging in the air. The town held its collective breath. What secrets were buried beneath the elegant facade of that house, waiting to claw their way to the surface? As days turned to weeks, Cedar Hollow's whispers transformed into fevered speculations. Leela's despondency deepened, a reflection of the roiling unease of those who ventured too close to the Delaney house. Parents warned their children to keep away, to avoid the ominous aura that clung to the premises like winter frost. "There's no telling what happens behind those closed doors," they would say, sharing furtive glances laden with apprehension. The first sign of genuine concern came not from within the family, but from one of the hired hands, a carpenter named Samuel who had worked alongside Elias. Samuel was often a silent observer, one who understood the creaking timbers and errant whispers of the old house far better than most. He noticed odd behaviors: the children spoke less within earshot of adults. Their laughter grew scarce, replaced by fleeting glances exchanged in corridors. "They're living in fear," Samuel confided to his wife, a seamstress named Clara who had a talent for reading people. "And it's not just the storms." He detailed the nights he heard muffled cries echoing in the dark, terrible and heart-wrenching. Clara would quiet him. "You needn't meddle, Samuel, it ain't our place." But the curl of concern did not settle easily in his heart. Then came the incident that would set the town on edge. A letter arrived at the local sheriff's office bearing a different kind of weight. It detailed ill-fated rumors whispering of the Delaney house being a haven for dark rituals, a supposed basement where the family bonded over shared practices that shunned the light of the world above. The letter bore no signature, merely panic-laden prose that ignited curiosity and dread. "What nonsense is this?" the sheriff remarked, crumpling the letter and tossing it aside. "They've paid their dues to this town, they're good people, we can't simply accuse them." But as the sheriff turned his back, young Thomas watched from afar, his eyes darting with trepidation, revealing any signs of danger were painfully constricted within his boyish heart. Meanwhile, Andrew became increasingly evasive. Dimmed by the shadows of scripts unwritten, he would blink back tears at the supper table, silences heavier than the humid summer air that enveloped Cedar Hollow. Days seemed longer, and with every tick of the clock, sleep eluded them within their fortress of elegance. They were mere actors in a play they no longer understood. As rumors spiraled and the town's anxiety reached a breaking point, a decision was made. A group of concerned citizens would gather under the cloak of night, hearts pounding with anticipation as they made their way towards the imposing silhouette of the Delaney house. Danger hung in the air like a storm, palpable and thick. They felt compelled to expose the secrets hidden beneath the shifting floorboards, to confront the shadows lurking below. The night was darker than anyone would have expected as the group approached the Delaney house, its towering archways looming like sentinels. Despite their apprehension, they couldn't ignore what they felt was a pressing duty. With lanterns flickering, they gathered their courage and began to seek a way inside. The air was heavy with anticipation, as the peculiar sounds of their footsteps seemed amplified against the profound silence. As they quietly slipped in through a creaking back door, the flickering light illuminated the ornate decor that had once dazzled the town. Though the grandeur remained, a feeling of disarray lingered. Shadows pulsed against the surfaces, and the scent of damp wood mixed with that of decay infiltrated their senses. They commonly split up to cover more ground, drawn by unfettered determination to unearth the truth. Through opulent rooms and dust-caked parlors, they searched for a hint, a clue, a secret that had been concealed for far too long. It was Thomas who stumbled upon the basement door, hidden beneath a worn tapestry that painted a different world, a world where horrors were disguised as pleas for a simplified existence. His small fingers trembled as he reached for the door handle, heart racing as he pulled it open. The hinges groaned in agony and the air spilled forth, laden with the familiar odors of dampness and something far more sinister. At the foot of the stairs, an unexpected chill tightened around Thomas's throat. His small frame hesitated at the threshold as flickering shadows danced on the walls. The group felt pulled toward him, and one of the braver members stepped forward and called him back. "You shouldn't go down there." The warning reverberated through the dimly lit corridor, but curiosity replaced caution as they all clambered into the darkness. What they encountered would haunt their dreams and reshape the innocent world they knew. The walls pulsated with an uncomfortable warmth, and as they celebrated the wonders of discovery, their joy evaporated into the shadows. There, behind the neatly organized rows of crates, sat children, at least 6 of them, pale, dirtied, ruffled, and seemingly stifled in this cold world, sat in eerie silence as if part of a twisted performance. Panic set in as murmurings erupted from within the group. Questions about their safety met with the disgust of what had unearthed beneath the polished surface. The children's wide-eyed stares conveyed the sense of dread that silence could not. The gravity of their entrapment pressed against their hearts like thick mud. As the children were brought into the light of their newfound freedom, Thomas, trembling and pale, managed to speak. We were waiting. Father told us to stay." And just like that, the threads of illusion began to unravel, exposing the dark tapestry adorned with manipulation, trauma, and sorrow, woven expertly by the family they believed loved them. The town of Cedar Hollow was forever marred by the revelations that flowed from that basement, the comfort of their shared existence now replaced with ashes of disbelief and despair. Some children were placed into new homes, but others emerged unable to withstand the weight of a past shrouded in shadows. Those who left carried burdens that reverberated through the lives of their rescuers, echoes of laughter transformed into cries of anguish that would resonate through the hallways of the townspeople. The Delaney family found themselves draped in a shroud of shame. Their once thriving legacy now stood as a haunting reminder of hidden horrors. Elias was arrested, the town's anger igniting a fire that would cleanse the memories of the families they had tormented. His trial was swift, an unrelenting cacophony of accusations enveloping the courtroom like an undead entity rising from the depths. Beatrice, once the beacon of grace, collapsed under the weight of her husband's actions. For Thomas, the youngest, solace eluded him. He found comfort in distorting memories, retreating into the embrace of silence. The new families who attempted to provide warmth were met with a guarded heart. Leela, too, sailed through life, yet her laughter always skirted the edges of sorrow. While some children navigated to healing, their scars were lessons concealed beneath adolescent resilience. Years melded into events that would lurk in the town's bones. However, every October the community would gather to remember, not solely those who had thrived, but also the silent children entrenched within the depths of that oppressive basement. An iron fence now surrounded the Delaney house, yet remnants of the past lingered like dust upon broken glass. They held a memorial each year, placing lanterns along the paths that led up to the old estate, illuminating the darkness that once cloaked the town. In town halls, discussions led to reforms. They emerged as something intended to erase the shadows that once thieved the laughter from their lives. Experts now discussed care practices and protection from parental influence, wrapped in a new understanding that even ordinary-looking families could hold secrets that dared not see daylight. As I stand beneath the faint light of the lanterns, the memory of those children clings to my thoughts. An unsettling truth lurks deep within Cedar Hollow. The macabre can rest beneath even the most elegant of facades, quietly waiting, unwavering as time marches forth, unless every individual confronts the darkness that can reside within even the most pristine walls. And thus, it remains a stark reminder, a hushed plea for vigilance against the shadows that can wrap themselves snugly around our lives, begging to be unearthed, urging us never to forget. As the seasons changed in Cedar Hollow, the haunting memories settled like autumn leaves, beautiful on the surface but tinged with decay beneath. Each year, the lanterns glinted in the twilight, memorializing not only the lost innocence of children but also the raw vulnerability of a community that had once overlooked the obvious. As years rolled forward, the Delaney house became an emblem of caution, a somber reminder of the secrets held too long within its walls. New families settled into the township, lured by the promise of tranquility, but they could never wholly escape the whispers. The Delaney house, they would murmur, eyes darting toward the looming structure cloaked in shadows, forever marked by the past. Young families gathered in the town square to share laughter and warmth, yet moments of levity hung like threads on a fraying garment, each store owner, teacher, or neighbor wearing the scars of their collective trauma. On the edges of conversations, children exchanged glances that knew too much, narratives untold lingering in the unspoken. Among the new residents was a woman named Clara who had taken an interest in historical preservation. She opened an old shop adorned with artifacts from the town's earlier years, offering a space filled with warmth and nostalgia. Yet she couldn't ignore the foreboding presence of the Delaney house. It haunted her dreams, and conversations about it filled the air with a tension that stifled laughter. One rainy evening, Clara found herself drawn to the house. Chills raced down her spine as she traversed the cracked path leading to the door, propelled by an insatiable curiosity. With each creak of the floorboards, she felt a mixture of excitement and unease, as if the walls themselves whispered forgotten tales. Torch in hand, she traced her steps carefully as though navigating a haunted battlefield. The air hung heavy with despair, each breath a reminder of lives lost in silence. Clara paused at the basement door, hand grazing the cold wood, her heart pounding with uncertain resolve. Suddenly, a shiver of energy washed over her, guiding her descent into the shadows. Each step caused the floor to groan, a mournful, echoing lament. As she reached the bottom, she was met by a sight that stirred her conviction, sending tremors of purpose coursing through her veins. There, amidst remnants of decay, lay remnants of childhood, discarded toys and tattered books, each an echo of laughter extinguished too soon. Well-worn dolls whispered of innocence lost. Soapstone carvings reflected the hands of tender dreams, dreams that had been shattered against the unforgiving walls of neglect. Clara knelt, overwhelmed by the magnitude of the space, which held countless untold stories gnawing at her conscience. Resolved to commemorate those lost, she began her project, a book detailing the forgotten children of Cedar Hollow, combining testimonies with history, painting a vivid portrait of lives once ignored. Clara gathered remnants from the town's corners, piecing together fragments of the past with care, ensuring the stories were not allowed to vanish into the ether. As her project unfolded, it became clear that healing lay not solely in recognition but in connection. She reached out to the survivors, offering them a chance to reclaim their narratives. One by one, they came forth from the shadows. Over tea and quiet conversations, they began to share their truths, reconstruct the pieces of their lives that had been stolen. Andrew, now a man burdened by the weight of recollections, spoke of his longing to repurpose the pain. Leela, with words that trembled, claimed her story as her own after years of refraining from sharing. Thomas, though still small in stature, revealed a bright determination to shed the chains of discomfort. In their company, tales unfurled like spring blossoms quenching the barren winter. Moments turned into milestones as the town gathered for a book launch, a meditation on shared histories and the resilience of those who endured. Clara stood tall, a beacon enveloping the contributions of heartbreak, healing, and reformation. As she looked around the room, she found everyone lit by hope and fortified against the shadows. "Let this space be a testament," Clara declared, her voice ringing clear and strong, "not only to those we lost but to each of us who is alive, who gets to wield our voice against darkness. Let us break the silence together." That night, a gentle warmth enveloped Cedar Hollow. The echoes of laughter drifted amidst the lanterns, each flicker a reminder of existence, each story a precious thread woven into the fabric of a community that once stood at the brink of despair. No longer were the Delaney house's walls laced with fear, for every lantern lit that night would illuminate a path towards remembrance, resilience, and reconciliation. And in the months and years that followed, the stories of the children transcended the boundaries of mere memory. In the heart of a town once paralyzed by the shadows of a dark past, the spirit of Cedar Hollow emerged transformed, a place grounded firmly in the commitment to fight for the voiceless and illuminate the corners where darkness once took refuge. forever refusing to let silence reign. Cedar Hollow now stood as a testament, not only to the devastation of lost innocence but as an enduring promise that the echoes of silence would forever give way to the roaring power of truth. As the years rolled forward, Cedar Hollow thrived, its resilience forged in the fires of adversity. Clara's book, Whispers of the Past, became a local fixture, with every copy sold weaving deeper connections between the town's residents and the histories they carried. Each page turned filled the cracks left by silence, igniting conversations that had long been buried, shedding light on what had been shrouded in darkness. However, the Delaney house, although transformed into a relic of caution, still cast a long shadow over the community. Debates flourished about whether it should be preserved as a historic site or demolished to serve as nothing more than a painful reminder. Some argued that dark histories should not be forgotten, while others wished to erase the specter of the past completely. One stormy evening, Clara received a letter. It bore no return address, its paper worn and creased, indicative of the turmoil hidden within. As she unfolded it, the words scraped against her heart like splintered wood. "They're gone, but the unquiet remains," it read, followed by a plea to come to the Delaney house that night. The signature was familiar yet unsettling. It was Thomas. Clara gathered her courage, heart racing with trepidation. She felt compelled to confront whatever remnants of the past waited for her in that house. The thought of Thomas, once silenced, now reaching out, ignited a flicker of hope against the lingering shadows. She arrived at the house, breath catching in her throat as she stood before the weathered doors, haunted by the memories of all that transpired within those walls. The wind howled as she pushed the door open, its creak echoing into the night. A sense of foreboding washed over her, yet the dim light from her lantern became a beacon, guiding her as she stepped inside. The air felt thick with stories begging to rise to the surface, and she was drawn instinctively to the basement once more. At the foot of the stairs, she paused, hesitation coiling around her like fog, but voices carried softly from the depths, timid yet urgent. "Clara," a whisper came. It was Thomas, his voice breaking the tension of the silence. "Hurry, you have to see." Descending the stairs, she reached the familiar space, now filled with a chill that sent shards of ice skimming down her spine. And there, illuminated only by the flickering lantern, stood Thomas alongside the other children, those who had grappled with ghosts and echoing narratives. They were whispering to one another, feeling the power of a purpose resurrecting. "Clara, we found something," he said, a mix of fear and excitement dancing in his eyes. "It's here in the walls," it wants to be heard. He led her to a corner of the basement that seemed different, almost alive, as if the air itself vibrated with energy. Leaning closer, Clara spotted a gap in the wall, a hidden door she had missed before, one that whispered of secrets yet untold. With the children's help, they pried it open, revealing dusty wooden shelves cloaked in the remnants of time. Inside lay artifacts left by the Delaney family: journals brittle with age, letters folded tight, and photographs that captured fleeting moments. Clara thumbed through the pages, uncovering the remnants of another history, long hidden beneath the layers of deceit and sorrow. Each account spoke of rituals, ceremonies held in the name of control over innocence, an insidious belief system that twisted familial bonds into instruments of fear. Amidst the revelations, one journal caught her eye, its pages stained with ink, revealing a web of terrifying ideologies that kept the children bound in obedience. Each line breathed heavy with the weight of fear, the desperate need for admiration and power, bleeding into the hearts of the Delaneys at the expense of their own flesh and blood. "They thought they were offering us safety," Thomas stammered, unable to keep the tremor from his voice, "but it was a cage." Understanding dawned upon Clara, a mission ignited. "We have to tell the town," she urged, emboldened by the fortitude growing amongst them. It was a legacy of pain that could no longer be tucked away. It was time to expose the truth threaded within the darkness. As they emerged from the Delaney house, the children followed behind Clara, their footsteps resolute, their shadows drawing together as one. They stood united under the stormy sky, ready to confront the past head-on, ready to dismantle the notion that darkness could reign unchecked. In the heart of Cedar Hollow, Clara rallied the town's residents. The recounting of their shared history was raw and unvarnished, as courageous voices recounted the hidden truths unearthed from the depths. The air crackled with conviction as tales unfurled beneath the dimly lit chandeliers of the town hall. This time, the atmosphere was different, transformed by anger and a resolute desire to never allow history's darkness to repeat itself. The town gathered not solely to remember, they rallied to reshape the future, determined that the horrors of the past would not define them. Thus, the Delaney house shifted from mere silence to a place of active discussion, a point for education against the complacency that brings neglect. It found a new purpose, an anchor to remind Cedar Hollow of its resolve to offer voices to the silenced, compassion to the vulnerable, and a promise that vigilance would always reign supreme. What was once a haunting remnant of anguish blossomed into a testament forged through resilience, unveiling the tapestry of a new narrative, one woven with transparency and hope. In time, Clara and the children emerged as champions, stewards of the past committed to amplifying voices and uprooting the tangles of silence that had once drawn breath in Cedar Hollow. And on the anniversary of their gathering, they lit lanterns along the path, each flicker illuminating not just the stone walls of the past, but also the paths toward redemption, a vivid reminder that healing often grows from the ashes left behind. And the shadows, once an oppressive presence, transformed into gentle tugs of remembrance, guiding their resolve to face the unknown together, a community united against darkness, determined to harbor light. As the dawn of a new chapter unfolded over Cedar Hollow, the air filled with a sense of profound reconnection and reverence. The town transformed, not simply in the whispers of lore but in tangible acts of unity and commitment to safeguard each other from lurking shadows. Clara harnessed the fervor of newfound understanding, rallying the townsfolk not just to remember, but to actively participate in nurturing a community where every voice could rise above the din of silence. The education system began to weave lessons from the past into their curriculum. Young students gathered in classrooms adorned with art depicting resilience, their voices echoing with history's reimagined. Stories sprouted from the ground like wildflowers, roots affixed to the town's rich landscape, ensuring that the horrors of the Delaney legacy would serve as cautionary tales interwoven with compassion. Months passed, leading into spring when the town convened for the annual festival, a celebration of life, community, and shared resilience. Clara stood at the center, welcomed with applause as children clung to her hands, eyes shining with excitement and hope. Lanterns flickered around the periphery, symbolizing remembrance for those who felt stifled, each light a beacon that cast aside shadows. During her address, Clara spoke not just of the past but of the promise each individual could uphold. "It is our duty to nurture one another," she implored, recognition of the unbreakable bond that emerged amid hardship. "Let us forge a future where courage is celebrated, where our children are equipped with knowledge that breaks the chains of silence." The crowd erupted into cheers, a resounding testimony of commitment to protect those who could not speak. As celebrations continued, families shared stories under the moonlit sky, laughter wrapped in a warmth that penetrated even the most hardened of hearts. New friendships blossomed, fostered by respect and the shared understanding of what had once been buried beneath fear. Even the remnants of the Delaney house became a canvas for transformation. Clara embarked on plans to convert it into a community center. The town rallied around the initiative, envisioning a space where creativity and connection could flourish. Architects and craftsmen poured their expertise into restoring the structure, replacing darkness with vibrant murals, inviting people to express themselves without fear of judgment. Yet amid the renovations, traces of the haunting legacy remained, reminders of darkness interwoven with triumph. Clara led workshops to educate the community about mental health advocacy, focusing on the emotional scars born from trauma. "It's okay to talk," she would say, inviting them to share their burdens, creating a safe space for vulnerability. Meanwhile, Thomas and Leela, now young adults, became advocates in their own right. They ventured to schools beyond Cedar Hollow, sharing stories of their childhood, spreading awareness of emotional wellness and protection from neglect. Their personal narratives illuminated paths for others to follow, lives transformed by the courage to speak and listen. As their voices resounded beyond the boundaries of the town, they recognized the universal struggle for empathy and understanding. They visited communities where silence still gripped families like an iron fist, planting seeds of hope and resilience. Through their efforts, support systems emerged that equipped future generations with the tools they needed to navigate pain and adversity, a collective effort toward healing that extended well beyond Cedar Hollow. One fateful day, news arrived from a neighboring town where a similar narrative unfolded. Tragedy, whisperings of mistrust and silence encircled families like fog. Clara, Thomas, and Leela quickly stepped into action, offering their insights and guidance shaped through personal experience. "We have the power to break this cycle," Clara urged at a meeting, her voice unwavering in its resolve. "Let us show them that hope is always within reach." It was through this association that they began to build networks that connected communities, bridging gaps where once there was isolation. The towns interlinked through stories shared, reminding each participant of their fundamental right to safety, empathy, and a voice. Years later, Cedar Hollow was no longer merely a small town in Oregon. It became a beacon of hope, an emblem of what the human spirit could accomplish when united in resolve against the shadows. The legacy of resilience was etched not only in Clara's book but also within the walls of the community center, a place that had transformed darkness into light. The lanterns, once markers of remembrance, were now symbols of courage, flourishing, each flicker a testament to the tenacity of the human heart. And as the people of Cedar Hollow stood together beneath the night sky, they understood their community was a tapestry woven from struggle and triumph, united through the unyielding fight for the voices once silenced. In that enduring presence, they carried forth their promise as guardians, watchful stewards of hope, bearers of love, forever vigilant against the shadows that might creep in unnoticed. For they understood now more than ever, in the heart of every darkness lays the potential for light waiting to emerge. The legacy of Cedar Hollow became a narrative of strength, echoing through the years. Families gathered yearly to celebrate their community, each gathering filled with laughter, stories, and renewed bonds. The Delaney house, once a prison of silence, transformed into a vibrant community center with children bustling through its halls, creating art, learning, and forging friendships. The town evolved, not only housing memories of its past but also embracing its future. Clara, Thomas, and Leela continued to nurture the community, sowing seeds of empathy and resilience in new generations. Workshops and discussions became customary, teaching children the importance of communication, mental health, and understanding. Storytelling circles flourished, where experiences mingled, breaking down barriers and fostering connections. As the seasons turned, the lanterns hung bright during their annual festival, but now the light symbolized hope and unity rather than sorrow. The once ominous Delaney house had become a sanctuary for creativity, an indomitable fortress of joy where children felt safe to express themselves. One evening, as Clara walked through the center, she marveled at the echoes of laughter bouncing off the walls, intertwining with the stories being shared. The weight of history felt lighter here, transformation radiated from every corner. She closed her eyes for a moment, letting the warm glow wash over her. It was a reaffirmation that darkness could be countered by collective strength. Years down the line, the impact of Cedar Hollow rippled outward, inspiring neighboring towns to confront their own shadows. Advocacy ripened through shared connections, and the wisdom gained from the town's journey became a guiding light for others grappling with their pasts. Clara, with her unwavering passion, traveled beyond borders to speak at conferences, sharing the power of community and the resilience of the human spirit. Thomas and Leela stood alongside her, embodying their town's spirit, illustrating how vulnerability could pave the way for healing. In the quiet moments, as twilight descended, the lanterns still glowed, illuminating paths where stories converged. The community, bound by laughter and resilience, stood watch over Cedar Hollow, where every flicker served as a promise, a toast to the inhabitation of hope over despair. And so life thrived, entwined with lessons learned from the darkness, bringing forth an enduring truth. Courage sprouts in the most unexpected places, ignited by the unwavering commitment of hearts that refuse to let silence reign. The whispers of those lost were reverberated through the years, transformed into a chorus of resilience, reminding the community to cherish every voice, every story, and every moment they were gifted together.